Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in on a great viewer question, and that is how the narcissist can sort of disenable others. In other words, how can they act as sort of a divisiveness between people and sort of their own dreams and bringing them into fruition? How do they disenable? In other words, pull at the little bits of sort of realization at red flags at what you might sort of intuitively feel, what your body perhaps preceded you in the beginning. And so it's to understand that your body has been giving you feedback for a long period of time. However, the narcissist creates sort of they want you to live from the outside, their suggestions and their power. Basically, they always need to get sort of an imbalance to create what they would consider balance or harmony, which is when they're utilizing their projections. Their projections are a defense mechanism and a way for a narcissist to feel in control. You're not this way. So people who have been wounded, hurt, traumatized physically, emotionally, and have had their lawlessness sort of be the new law, which makes things very difficult to navigate and creates sort of an emotional choreography that you have to just sort of become adept to when you're with them. In other words, there's sort of an extra irritant, an extra thorn. There's an extra stab. There's an extra gift. There's an extra bow. There's an extra invite. There's an extra discard. There's an extra discarding, where they then sort of bring you down and say things that are in particularly very insensitive and really designed, like custom designed, to hurt you, which becomes very odd in their way of communicating, because in particular they really like to sort of what seems like personalizing their words to injure, to maim, and oftentimes really dupe others in. Wipe you out emotionally. I mean, literally, where you go into shock reverse as if you're an engine. You just went from drive to choke threshold, and then your engine is just sort of out of whack. And you then have to develop this sort of emotional choreography to understand and sort of levy yourself out of what just happened and sort of find your way again, but as a very incomplete feeling because of this dramatic shutoff, or what they will be sort of disenabling others to get others into a very reactive state, which is the weakest state your body can be in. Why do they know this? Why is this so deliberate and pre-calculated? And how does this seem unimaginable? That, Peace and Harmony is telling me this, and this sort of derailing the terror. The sort of, it's even beyond scolding. Sometimes what they do to sort of, toy with people, just like you might see those wrestling matches. They really like to execute these big emotional holds that get people really sort of disenabled, which means sort of cut off from a lot of social, even their own social context, which is really different. It's not just like, oh, we broke up, it's a divorce. It's like, you're talking about having to defend and sort of your neurology sort of readjust to a chemical imbalance of oftentimes contradictory words and actions. In other words, they put a smiley emoji face where it doesn't belong, like it's just inappropriate reactions. They're inappropriate because they lack empathy and lack conscious. It really gives them sort of a fine-tuned ability, which you can't really detect from the outside. I mean, but once you see that these people are very different. They can be, very commanding, very comforting. These people are the woo people. Oh, don't worry about it. I got it. These people who make great chefs, hostesses, barmaids, restaurant servers, actors. These are the people who have that woo personality, that little extra charisma, that little sort of the emotional hustler to them. In other words, where they sort of flip people off of their feet and tell them then what their feet are going to be. It's sort of a contradictory, like it's not a good healthy mix of sort of neurochemistry around them, but the way that they operate is all encompassing generally, because they like to really have that emotional sort of wretchedness where they can pull and shape you. And so when they're ready to say, and then you spring back into some sort of feeling that you can't even recognize or even operate within yourself, you can't even take yourself apart to put it back together again. Things just seem so misoriented, misdirected. You feel so misdirected and misled, misguided. And it's not really anything most people, to the depth of personalization that these really sort of otter, they're sort of really cold-blooded otter type, but appear very bunny-ish, funny, just comical, or just very endearing. They get you in the palm of their hand right away, but you're not on sort of sure footing, and it feels like, oh, they're so funny, and it can be just sort of, they can be like a relief to be around. That's like the love bombing, and they're very well aware of this influence that they want to have on others. For some reason, they're very good. Come on in. If it's a good person, when they're hosting, it's a great thing. When it's a narcissist pulling the emotional strings and sort of come on in, but they expect you, for the role that they have pre-written, that you're going to come in like Baryshnikov, dancing, flight through the air, and do some sort of chassé turnaround dance, and then somehow you're going to reignite and better their life with some sort of magical thing that you're going to have to come up with. God knows what it is, but you usually feel you're going to stick around for some orders or some sort of, hey, wouldn't it be better if you wore those shiny shoes? Hey, wouldn't it be better if you cleaned up your look a little? Or, hey, looks like you're such and such right now. Or, just sort of these sort of comments that really are too sticky. There's too much manipulation going on underneath. That really, the problem with a narcissist is they do it in a way that it's undetectable. Or even maybe sort of undesired to be detectable is where you can get back the free will, is they sort of disenable your free will. Like, in other words, to get onto their platform, it's sort of like, this is my world, come and join me, sort of, versus like, hey, how are you? We're on the same planet. It's more like, welcome to my world. And they expected, everything to be either their way and sort of extreme, whatever extreme they're into. Maybe it's hours, maybe it's work, maybe it's dreams that they keep talking up, and they're chain smoking, and they're chain drinking, and they're chain swearing, or they're chain creating. These are the people who have projects, maybe if you're married, and then all of a sudden, they're trying to reconstruct the backyard with a couple of ponds, like a swan nest, and then some sort of other detailing that, keeps them morning, noon, and night. And then you're like, being ignored. And then especially after you've rolled out some sort of emotional red carpet for them before, this is, in the name of sacrifice, is usually when you begin the first emotional bending over backwards. Ha, oh, that didn't hurt. Yeah, we can just sweep past it. Yeah, it's okay, you can just blow me off again. Or usually there's a disrespect element that really you don't know that you're being disrespected. That's part of the problem of the deception, is that you don't know, you're not mature enough to know to have to beware of certain things in these people. So it's kind of like a first go around. So it really is like your first rodeo. And if you might be 6 on this rodeo, man, you might have started the rodeo when other kids didn't have to hop on any bronco horse type of person that would ride them and then buck, and that was fun. We all laughed, we slid down, we all, fell down, broke our necks, and then they usually get up, and then, they expect you to sort of continue these sort of tailwinds that they will put you in, and to make nothing of it, to make light of it, and being slighted. And it's usually the sheer thing is a brainwashing, which causes you to just sort of go along with them instead of making a big deal. Oh, I don't want to make a big deal. I'm a nice guy. I'm a nice girl. They make one apparent statement that's sort of trying to get the rug up from underneath you, meaning you're worthless. You don't even have a rug to stand on. Sort of these statements that they can make sort of casually that are really meant to sort of really jab and hurt, to sort of disenable you from your free will. In other words, to get you from abandoning your prefrontal cortex, which is your dreams, your best judgment, your morality, your ability to plan, solve problems, have things to look forward to, like a built-in, just like a dishwasher. You push the button and it goes through these phases and your cycle is done. I mean, the prefrontal cortex, when it's open, it's able to be open. It's not beset by danger. You can get a big screen picture. You've got a panorama on the world. You can be okay with the way things operate, and you're not having to impress, explain, justify, point out, find some sort of error that's been caused by this sort of relationship or sort of manipulation of irritation. So it does create this sort of ambiguity that you can't precisely respond. They want to keep it ambiguous. This is just when you get into that swampland with them. I mean, you thought you were going up the Alpine mountains and just like ho-humming, just like everything, and then there's an avalanche that came tumbling down, and you're just glad. I mean, you saw poof, a big part of your dreams, a big hunk of it might have need to be recalibrated now, because you found, that this sort of humor, this way of treating people, this is not funny. This is not life enduring. This is not sustainable. This is not mean that because I'm able to be this flexible, that this is so, it means longevity. So there becomes this discord of interpretation and judgment and misjudgment. So things are just sort of misfiring literally within the mind itself. The feelings, the emotions, and then the thoughts, and then the actions, of course, that become all intertwined, connected, but then you can see then where behavior would then be disordered off the rails in order to continue with that same relationship, even if it's distant, close, good, bad, amazing. But usually there's sort of a sort of invalidation or sort of I don't want to say corrupting, but yeah, they sort of corrode or corrupt a good in others and try to manage it for you, as if they're and then they can have that your self-interpretation then be an abomination to yourself. So that's their key clincher, when they can sort of get you, and then you're of the fallen angels, and then they, that's what an easy way to be king or queen. They can be the king or queen of dumb, of misguidance. They can be the king of stupid, the queen of dumb, the queen of misinterpretation. Whatever rail they sent you on, whoa, buddy, that was no rail that I want to pay any more. That was not, that is not what I signed up for, or really anybody should. But it's really like an emotional, you really have to become like an emotional Jacques Cousteau. Remember back in the day, like the sea diver, Jacques Cousteau, who would, have these wonderful programs and, explore these undersea worlds. And it was really beautiful and magnificent. So that's really what you have to feel for your interior, is like the beautiful and the magnificent that they've opened up. That little peel, that's nothing. You're more powerful. You're bigger than that. They tried to take one little foil bit and try to reflect it back to you like a bit of a tin can, that wasn't even whole, that they're trying to reflect back some little square corner, triangle corner of it back to you. See, and they really try to make like a museum of horrors, or especially like way of you interpreting yourself, the world. If they can see, it's a very, what you would consider sort of what you would classify as sadistic. But, you think, how can that apparently normal person be this way? They have a beautiful this, a beautiful that, their job, their friends. How can, it doesn't compute. Well, that is the whole thing. Stop making sense. Who said that? Stop. You're trying to use their enigma to solve their puzzle. So you just got to go, man, it's like an emotional Rubik's Cube. So you just sort of go, hands off, man. I'm not trying to figure you out, because really then you then begin to distinguish yourself from them, like you're a Lego bridge, and they're trying to, when they pull at you, they're trying to pull out certain things that you have to go back for. Oh, I left my heart in San Francisco. I left my watch at this guy's hotel. I left my smile in Belvedere. Wherever wherever they're from, it's you're thinking that's sort of the automated. So what I really feel is that's really the precursors of this addiction, because it becomes then part of the obsessive compulsive range, where they really want you to be sort of salivating up at them, and then feeling like the wounded, and then saying, you're right, you're so pristine, you're marble, you're flawless, because that's how they feel about themselves. They really do not interpret that they have any flaws, and at all. So they don't ever get to open up to anybody, really, I would say, and then progress and grow with like, hey, guess what? You're not perfect. And they would make you feel bad about little things, just that aren't even worth pointing out, but they will then make or ridicule or point at or try to make inferior, even though what can be outstanding, superb, the best. They don't know how to call a gem. They don't know, they know how to call their hand a bluff or a full house. That they know always how to only call their hand. What was it, Lady Gaga, poker face or whatever? But these people, they don't ever change it. I think only once in a while, when they maybe get older and they realize, I'm going to have to really get a new meat on this hook. I'm going to have to, they no longer want to be where they wake up. They're like, they're always sort of disconnected, and then people just don't understand how this person could have divorced so easily, left so easily. How can they apparently not be injured? Well, this is, when you're talking about a malignant narcissist or a psychopath, they generally have a, either don't feel that emotional pain. It doesn't affect them. They don't have that sensitivity, that buzz, that, whoa, really? They don't flinch, flail. An Arctic wind comment can come through that you're like, man, that is cold. And they're just, as far as they're on the foot of sand of Miami or wherever, and they've they're drinking from a pineapple right now. That's when you really get into the psychopath range, when they really don't have any sort of emotional repertoire for humanity. How are you? Let's, have a commitment. Let's really plan for this. It's the real deal. That, that they don't play that game at all. It's not in their wheelhouse. If you can just sort of imagine that, if you, I always use these comparisons, but rather than you doing the emotional choreography that's always based on some element of them, whether it's a feeling, a resonant feeling that you feel is going off into infinity, you're so stupid, you're so dumb, you're so unattractive, your hands are too small, whatever they wanted to injure you for. You're boring, you're predictable, you're stupid, you're poopy, whatever they call you. Maybe there's a dumb nickname that, as if they're sort of rubbing, putting on that name on you. And see, the problem again with this script is they have written the script. You don't have any role to say, well, here's where I come in. I say, I want to go on a vacation, or I want to build a house, or let's do this together. When it comes to that, they will disable that little by little, log by log, breath by breath in certain things, and they'll rip it away and they'll make it seem unattainable. So then people will believe or sense or feel, absorb that from them, and then allow that to be their truth, allow their misguiding to be them. So they're always feeling or interpreting that. And so you can get then that little emotional space there, and then you can see then how does your body continue replay or reverb certain things. And to certain degree is your life being adversely affected, meaning you're going backwards, you're disenabled, your free will is not taking you places even within the 5 minutes. In other words, you're still on a sort of a downward routine. You don't have things that you would say, I'm moving on, improving, even if it seems like I'm working towards it. In other words, to what degree are you still giving up, and you're still living as a composite or Build-A-Bear person that they're trying to make you into, as if your arm, your leg, every part of your body is sort of up for their grabs in their terms, and your terms don't have any bearing. So it's built in from the beginning. So it's nothing that you have done wrong. It's natural that this would have happened. So in other words, you don't have the radar to detect these things until it's sort of like you can't taste the pudding until you actually put it in your mouth. And you can sort of, I get a taste for this now. I see it needs more this, more that, or I like this flavor. So that should be a natural give and take, but that stops in the narcissist. That sort of everyday give and take, it becomes really their orchestration. And that's very, very disempowering. Even if for some part of it was empowering, you were there, you were healing, whatever stage of the part that you were on of becoming, it was sort of enfolded in. And so you do have to sort of yank yourself out a little bit and come to really your own footing and dwell within what you can just as your own footing. So without sort of the marring, the adverse, pins and, pings and pans, pings and pangs, or, emotional, sort of those guttural bends, twists, seizing up, if you armor yourself, or, you see people seize up literally. So just like an emergency room nurse would have to seize up, there's someone on bay 1, bay 5, Bay 293, you're seizing up, and then they run with it. So for some nurses, they're on that high adrenaline. That's how they can actually operate. And some, they get so burnt out and they wish that they didn't have that job, and then they have to go into something else or get re-educated. But the body will be in sort of in all reactive. So they get you at that, what I would consider, which a lot of advertisers, they want you at that sort of reptilian brain, sort of, it grabs you, just like when you see, certain things that you need, and it sort of grabs you, or good food. There's this reptilian desire, like your desire, and then, the satisfaction, and I'm motivated, my drive is ignited. So, oftentimes in the narcissist relationship, they will ignite you to better please them. In other words, to what degree can you better accommodate them emotionally, physically, financially, with speaking, without speaking, and to some term and degree, and to say and see it coming, and to say, what, there is another way out. So especially now with a lot of technology, I think we're going to see a lot of strange things. You see, because a lot of these advanced technologies, which, again, kind of like from the top down, the way that emotional choreography is, you have to then learn these new systems very intimately, as if it's a friend. Do you want to name this device? I mean, as if you have a new child, you're supposed to, all of a sudden, you're a parent, and I'm a new father, I'm a new mother, name this device, and people fall right into it. Next thing you know, you're sort of agreeing, I agree, I participate, to certain things that people aren't aware of, or privacy information, compromised email addresses, all these different things. So you have to be very careful and realize that your emotional agility is gonna be a great talent of yours, but to what degree can you detect are the where they've written certain things for you that you don't necessarily agree with. So you have had kind of but this, you can own it yourself. So in other words, that are uniquely you, but they have to make you feel like you have to work so hard just to reclaim the worth of yourself. In other words, you have so much to recover from. They got you so far down that it can take a long time to recover from and stop seeing or feeling yourself. Feeling meaning self-reference, self-bias, feeling certain negative ways, fearful, intimidated, avoidant behavior, avoidant personality disorder, where, I really don't have anything going on. I should avoid all social interaction. I should just try to discover how very terrible I am, and then, work on that. Or, you're still like living in their vibrato, their world, their repertoire of how they want you to be footed, unsure, not looking, not feeling certain things, questioning, seeing, observing. I mean, obviously, I'm a lover of nature. I love painting. Oh my gosh, I love abstract art. I love all that stuff. I love, the natural Zen type stuff, the simplicity, and things like that, where there's not a lot of trouble going on. Yeah, trouble is, but to a degree that you want to physically tune into on the day-to-day, the moment by moment. To what degree have you been twisted into your head being like, you're always thinking you have to be this digital self, or this sort of self according to the book that they wrote, and or how they interpret, versus like knowing. And they don't want you to have a sense of knowing, because a sense of knowing would be, oftentimes what you had honed into, but yet you didn't know the way out. In other words, they had, to a certain degree, a narcissist can set an emotional trap for you to sort of get into as a maze, and then you find yourself in the dead end of the maze, sort of like in a room talking, why did we break up? Why did this fail? And in other words, that's where they led your cheese. And it's like, I'm not eating cheese and crackers out here in this, I'm going to back out of this maze. I'm not in this trap. So exercising your free will, just sort of as a natural knowing state, is sort of what they want. It's their their standards, their being. And oftentimes they will be dismissive of others who aren't operating at that level, or who really, frankly, can't keep up with a superficial, sort of shallow life where you're always sort of having to manage some sort of digital platform, digital identity, according to their requirements. At the end of the day, they make it seem like you're supposed to be tuning into how they want you to be, rather than you coming from your sense of self, which is good enough, but they have thrown a couple wrenches, a couple thorns in there to make it sure that it doesn't go well for you. For them, that is that's closure. That's them healing up. That's them disowning any responsibility for any hurt, or just sort of normal questioning that comes. So, part of that emotional choreography comes when you just want to have that kumbaya, come to Jesus, sort of, I want to, that discussion, I want to have kids, I want to raise, I want to live in peace. This is intolerable. This is not suitable. This is unsafe. This is dangerous. I don't like this. It's too risky. It's, this doesn't fit me anymore. I don't like where this is headed, and you're sort of pulling your head out of the quicksand, and, what you thought was going to be your bread and butter, you better airlift out of there and pronto, and not feel that you're then coming to a state of emptiness or discomfort because of it. So, sometimes a little discomfort is normal when you have conversations, but not to the point, you have normal conversations, things that you might have brought up that were just sort of, swept under the rug, or really sort of dismissed or discredited. So, I want to have kids. Oh, there's all this and this that they have some sort of, there's usually a fantasy that they're living, or some sort of goal, some sort of big contract, some sort of thing that's going to have, some judgment that's going to happen, or they're going to come into some this or that, or some life-changing thing, usually, and then they've got this built up that they're going to build this, have that, go there, do this, and sort of like, thank you, for helping me, and, or, being as this in my life. So you don't even have to interpret it. What you can do is just sort of back off of it and say, I don't want to be there's no need for me to traverse sort of any muck or wet cement that leads between me and trying to figure that out, where, there's still feelings of discomfort that dwell or stay imprinted within. So you're feeling then that people then, say, oh, because I'm, have this sort of growing concern in me every day. That could just be natural motivation. You could just be thirsty, hungry, but instead you would interpret it as fear. So learn to read certain body signals, especially as how they're going to have their rhythm within the day. I mean, it amazes me how many people have all these Fitbits that you're sending your information to some big cloud computer that knows when you're sleeping, when you're eating. I mean, people can send all your data wherever you want, but you must realize to what degree is it for your benefit and your improvement, or to what degree are they scaling a deeper sense of manipulation where you're really sort of left playing a role that doesn't really fit you anymore, that you're growing out of, or you're feeling is too small, too big. It's leading you to feel like you have to come out like Baryshnikov and sit, and if you don't enter their life like just some sort of Prince Charming or Princess something and have some sort of news or something suitable that's according to them, why is it always interpreted that way? So there's a there's a misdirection. So in other words, rather than living to always answer, what about learning to answer or live for yourself? In other words, you don't have to go on vacation to impress somebody. You maybe want to go on vacation because you want to go there and this is something important and meaningful to you, not because you're going to go there and take pictures or Instagram or Facebook and you've got this whole interwoven life. For people who live on that high maintenance life, generally I believe they probably get to the point where they want to hire somebody, an assistant, have a youngster in the family manage their stuff. I don't know, but it seems like an awful lot of work if you're constantly having to, on the daily, update the prongs of your life, and you're sort of living embedded in a phone. So like years ago, you might have had a phone book underneath the phone, but you wouldn't put everything in your life like under the phone. So you have to kind of back off it sometimes and do what you have been, oftentimes deprived of, which is the ability to experience self-reflection. Because oftentimes that sort of communication or communication style or depth of communication is not experienced or reverberated or allowed. There's either maybe a wall, a boundary, a threat, where they don't allow certain natural, normal reflections. Because they maybe feel they don't have an answer, they're going to burn up and they're going to be like, why would you even say that? They're going to dismiss or even scorn or, add on a little bit more salt to the wound, twist the knife a little bit and sort of as if you're really off track. And then so any sort of impetus, motivation, proactive, reaching out, sort of coming from within, hey, can we discuss this? And that ability to self-reflect. Like, I really don't want to do that, and is that okay? I really want more, is that okay? I really just need silence now rather than doing that and that and that. Or like, I don't feel that you really sort of understood me or that you told the truth, or that I feel like you're sort of falsely accusing me of these things. And it's really beginning just to be nonsense, and so you can, in other words, the ability to sort of keep it on a neutral ground and be able to develop that skill. And you might have had way too many slaps on the face, like literally, you might have literally been punched in the face, slapped in the face, called names, had water poured on you, or your house TP'd or whatever would have happened. And then often the problem with those then types of narcissistic sort of communication styles is then it's this really reactive, like equal, this then what back, it becomes this sort of if you then what back, and then it'll bring out the worst of people. So a very easygoing person who just wanted to reflect and say, I really want something more than this type of job. Like, I don't, or I really want more in this type of relationship. And this is, what I'm hoping, like, rather than feeling embarrassed or like, or really, being listened to. I can't, this really bothers me when you yell at me, or this really hurts when you look at me mean all the time and you shake, you can't even do that without getting a worse level of shame that they are, really adept at sort of shutting others down. So that is their gig. It doesn't mean it has to be your gig. You don't have to make it part of, what you do today is turning on their gig on the radio and being like, yeah, I'm going to do, you might be able to, if you can do like a happy dance and your emotional choreography, you've got it going within, and you're just like, you can just pop it, and you can just do that for no reason when your coffee's brewing, you're inviting a better positive experience, the sort of self-reflection or meaningful revelation, that, these aha or sort of cloud break moments that you can have, like, instead of it being stormy and it's saying, oh, well, it's only stormy on your side. Hey, guess what? You find out it's triple stormy on their side. That was their level of cover up, and that's their level of dejection and projection, meaning their stuff, they will put it on you and say, it's like putting on a jacket and go, look at that jacket on you. It's like they put on the shame and they go, and so it's theirs. It could be their jacket. And they're going, look at your jacket. And you're like, this is your jacket. You could take it off. No, that's in you, but it's in you. So they want you to live, breathe, and operate within a very unhealthy level, like a sort of where things are unresolved, which oftentimes has a very physical manifestation, especially, that's the result. It's like you get a double heaping if they don't have this empathy and they don't permit this sort of self-reflection, coming to Jesus, let's go to the sandbar, let's mellow out, let's take a chill. There's no there is no equality. I think that's maybe a bottom line for them. That makes them very uncomfortable. And so if you're not treated with respect, they're trying to always dangle some sort of, projection onto you that is not yours. You don't have to respond, live, breathe, put it in your eyesight, process it through your prefrontal cortex and look forward to more negative feelings. Because if you continue to allow that to run your life to a certain degree, that negative then will continue to be the master of your ship. It'll continue to be like the motivating output. It'll be sort of the energetic output from your emotional network, your emotional insides, as they're, calculating and processing and, getting into behavior, the gears, how certain you breathe. It's all interrelated. So a lot of how your body functions can then be affected, either for the stronger, the better, or for the adverse, where, you don't feel in control. You've never felt good. So you can then imagine there's going to be a lot of chemical imbalance of perception and emotions, things that needs to be resolved. So to sort of wrap it, you can basically say that it's okay to exist according to according, just according to. You can just don't even put a label on it. Allow things to just be, and allow things to say, I would like it to manifest to be more effortless, or less consuming, less burdensome, less taxsome on me. So you can then begin to say, and then look forward in your moments. Oh God, here I've got an itchy nose. You can then look forward, like I discussed here, on those moments, those sort of recovery, reassembling, a little bit of free time moments where you say, you know what, I really need to book and show up for 2 hours with myself where I'm either mellowing out or I'm amping up or I'm getting myself together, or I'm going to and reviewing and investigating and partaking and participating in, which hitherto I hadn't. So for example, if you're part of your a moment or your goals, meaning sort of now look forward to sort of pull the better part of you out to say, like, let's say I want to become more cultured in art, and therefore I'm gonna go to a museum and I'm gonna book an moment of just 2 hours of silence and observing art, and or whatever credentials you set off for, meaning and then you just allow to be. I mean, it's a safe place, but you're filling in, and then you're witnessing something of the miraculous or the beautiful or the stunning or wherever it is that sort of has called to you. You haven't just made it there yet. You know what I'm saying? One of those things that you can then book your sort of reassembly dates, with how you reassemble yourself from, you're not a potato head, but like, how you recultivate or recouture or recurate your emotional inner state. And you sort of get it set and rehearse and memorize. So for example, you can say, because of all this, I don't like the feeling of being agitated or being goofy or being tired or being fatigued or being put down or depressed or humdrum. So you can say, that's one emotional state that I can basically say I'm okay without, like that's really been hindering me. And or even some physical thing like that you haven't done. You need to go ride the bike, you need to go do something that is really giving you more joy and freedom. And so you can really look and say, how can I fill my calendar then purposefully and with an intention and commitment? And I actually do. So in other words, I never thought I would follow up on it, but I'm actually going to. Like one of those where you just then glide into achieving your goal. So, if things are always, made so tough in your life before, it's hard to imagine that you could also achieve certain goals more seamlessly more effortlessly, more painlessly. Like in other words, you're sort of doing certain things and it's just a little bit more comfortable. Things you've just got a little bit better grip. You're better suited and set up where you want to be. You're either turning down, you're turning up, you're letting go. And once you can do that, you can then reset and then recall that specific state, and you can sort of anchor it within you. So anchoring meaning holding, your body in a specific recall mechanism that you go, when I want to remember this beautiful experience, like the first time you saw a beautiful painting, or you entered a beautiful church, or you saw a beautiful stained glass window, or you saw a vista outlook on an ocean or lake or something really, and then you could anchor, you really specifically said, I really, or I really dislike that feeling and I want to get rid of it. You can get rid of it like that, like shoot it out, and just say, I want to get it. But if you want to anchor it positively, like the way the Aruba sands felt on your feet, or the grass in fall, or grass, and you can anchor that and recall that. And then if you can then build in and then anchor in other specific senses, how you felt, what you thought, what you did, what you smell, what you tasted, how the pace, how what caught your eye, and so you can better articulate and curate with the body that you're in, the human being that you are. So just realize it's like you're really reignite and rekindle your ability to think, plan, and prepare in a specific way that doesn't have to be graded, checked off, shown for approval, handed in, said, please check off, I agree, before you live your life. Because oftentimes, as a result of narcissistic trauma, there's these little snags. There's, especially when you use the word always, there's always, and that you got to let that word go out of your vocabulary next to the word snag. You got to get that out. And especially if that has been built in as a command for you from this sort of narcissist or psychopath. There's always a problem with you. There's always this, so then you might, do you see what I'm saying? This might be taking up your right or left leg right now. And you've got to get that out, and you've got to re-anchor something else that is actually within. They don't have that right, but before that, they sort of, have that culpability. So I would say, learn to get that perspective and then say, man, I've really completed that, or, and then say, I'm going to leave a little bit room open, and then reframe, how much of this you leave open. So you have an ability to better and better fine tune and navigate your emotional body, the etheric body, the body which, especially a narcissist. So we've got a few minutes here. I would say one of the sort of aftershocks, rumblings, almost a pattern, like either the way that rolls, like you would think of like a tremor, like of, that sort of lives within you. And because a lot of emotions are hot, they're electric, they seize you up, they get you. What was that one band that called their name by this back in the day? Not seizure. What was the name? It'll come to me in a moment, but it was a great word for like, you're really on fire. It'll come to me in a moment. It began with S. But they really, those are hot electric emotions that are oftentimes fueled by feeling inferiority, which creates a very, I would say, pattern and repetitive pattern that can mimic oftentimes the gravity or the emotional circuity, emotional sort of energy circuitry that is affiliated sort of with their own electricity. So live the body electric, whatever that means. So realize that some of those states, those like emergency states, you might find that there's better ways that you want to sort of put a little bit of I am fertilizer onto those onto those situations where it's like, instead of this negative adverse emotional reaction, I want to have and feel like I'm eating some oatmeal and I'm content and I'm doing something good for myself. So you need to learn, you can learn to recurate certain feelings on your moments that you can then resettle and rehearse and rememorize and sort of anchor in for the positive that goes better with a true flow. Maybe that's, you feel a little bit stronger, maybe a little bit more resilient. You're able to have some conversations. You find that you're improving in certain things. In your prefrontal cortex, you're now able to look at your calendar and say, I'm going to look forward and plan. And you don't have to look forward, to the other items hitherto that might have been thrust. These can be completely very different and very simple, very small, doable, very manageable, enjoyable goals that are very simple, that you just want to have a wonderful week, or you want to be able to go out socially again and feel strong, and then you start to see, okay, I'm going to move forward here, and you just start doing it. You don't start questioning it, you just start doing it. You just start moving into the action, the behavior, and little by little, you move it all forward, and you don't get in that trap that it oftentimes can be set, that emotional trap. Oh, they got me reacting again. I stepped right into it. I put my hand, my mouth, my head, whatever. So just be careful of that groundwork, and be able then to plug and prepare for some other things that you feel would be truly beneficial, that you want to feel and experience and immerse yourself in, that really bring improvement and clarity and strength for things like, I never thought before, I'm doing it now, and things that like are more comforting, even if they had been hitherto, thought impossible. You're fine that you're actually able to make some things happen. So, really a profound shift you can make. And when you can say, I'm hanging up my my puppeteer strings, like I'm just literally putting them over there. If I ever want to walk into those puppet strings once again, oh boy, I can go and do that, and I can make all the wrong decisions. I can go back with all the bad feelings and the bad statements, or I can say, you know what, I'm not hooking myself up to that anymore. And then you can just sort of like let it be, and then pretty soon, you can even just say, well, you can even donate it, and or get rid of it, and then realize that you're okay with a certain degree of freedom, and you're okay then in that embracing certain B states and having what you would consider important for you to have, not that you were told to have, be, become, or pursue. This is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and for goodness sake, please donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Have a beautiful day. Peace out. You got this.